This is the Independence Blue Cross Bull Session, presented by SEPTA, a weekly recap of your 2024 Phillies, broadcasting live from Chickies and Pete's. Tonight's show is brought to you by Team Toyota, BCWSA, The Capitol Grill, Independence Blue Cross, and SEPTA. Now, here are your hosts, Phillies PA announcer Dan Baker and Tommy Greene.
Good evening, everybody. Are we okay?
Yeah.
Hey, it's good to see you. And where have you all been? We've been waiting so long. With Tommy Greene, I'm Dan Baker. And I want to say a few words about Tommy before we introduce our special guest.
Who's been on the run.
He's been on the run.
I would have gotten there faster if I ran.
Oh, Ed, we thank you for being here. This is one of the best general managers in Phillies history, I'll tell you that, and Houston Astros history. And but first, our co-host, and we almost had some photo presentations for you tonight.
Been
Tom,
awesome.
And we are going to have that for one of the shows. Selfishly, I wanted to be here for it, you see, so I was trying to coordinate it.
You're trying to coordinate. I saw you working.
When I would be here. But, in this year in which the Phillies have an 8-game lead in the National League East, and things look good, it reminds us to salute our prior championship teams, one of which was Tommy Greene's 1993 National League champions.
Who also our guest was very much involved with.
Wearing the only ring that I've got right now, as a matter of fact.
And Tommy, of course, pitched a no-hitter for the Phillies May 23rd, 1991 versus the Montreal Expos at Olympic Stadium. And, he's an important part of the Darren Dalton Foundation.
Yes. Very proud of that, by the way.
6 years with the Phillies, 90 through 95. 1.5 years with Atlanta, who of course drafted Tommy.
Don't be too mad at that, guys.
At Whiteville High School, North Carolina. And what a record in 1993, 16-4. Man, that is some percentage. 200 innings pitched, 3.42 earned run average, 167 strikeouts. So how about a show of support and salute to one of our few no-hit pitchers, former Phillies pitcher, number 49, Tommy Greene.
How about that? How about that voice, guys? Mr. Dan Baker makes me feel like I'm 24 again when I threw it.
Thank you. Thanks, Tom. And thank you for what you've done for Phillies baseball. And
thanks for the fans for that. They made that possible.
Ed Wade is our special guest tonight. And Ed graduated from Temple University. He's originally from Carbondale, Pennsylvania.
Proud of it.
And they're proud of you, Ed Wade. And he played, Temple played under Skip Wilson. And
I sat the bench under Skip. Let's be honest about that.
Well,
some good teams those years I was there.
Well,
there's nothing wrong with a little pinage. It gets your attention.
That's
It makes you get better.
Yep.
Did any one of those starters go on to have any kind of a major league career like you did, Ed?
No, not at that point in time. Although Jeff Mantle preceded me just by a year or so.
That dude he could hit, man.
Jeff Manto, I think he might have the highest career batting average of any Temple out.
I'm sure he would tell you if you asked him.
Yeah. And Joe Kerrigan. His team, I think, went to the College World Series, if I'm not mistaken.
We just had him on a few weeks ago, right?
Yes.
A week ago.
But I'm just going to take it through. Tommy and I are going to take it through Ed's career a little bit.
Hold on, that might take a while. That was a good one.
I know. I got 3 pages worth this afternoon. They're
very small pages, and he writes big.
I just write to remind myself of certain things. There's actually a lot more to say with each of these bullet points. such as, Ed started as an intern with the Phillies under Larry Schenk. In fact, you and I were just talking on the phone the other day.
The
And
Baron.
Ed, what's the latest update with Barron?
My understanding is that he was released from the hospital where he had his surgery and sent back to Marist Grove. He's going to do some rehab in the center that they've got there, but he's in good hands. And the report that I got last evening was that he's made significant progress. So, yeah, Larry hired me as an intern day after my 21st birthday. I started my career in baseball, and it was Larry that gave me my opportunity, and stayed long-time friends ever since then. Obviously, we're all pulling for him.
What a good man.
Ed,
Absolutely.
Good man.
Ed, just having called Barron the other day, and in October 1977, Ed started as a PR assistant with Houston. And it's funny, Ed, the integral role Phillies in Houston, like throughout your career. And do you know, was it you that suggested to J.R. Richard for a publicity stunt hold 8 baseballs in his hand?
The Reds had made a big deal about Johnny Bench, the size of Johnny Bench's
Yeah.
hands. Nobody could dispute that.
No.
But they
some
made a
mitts,
big deal
man.
that he held 7 balls in one hand. So I went up to JR one day, and I said, "Hey, do you think you could hold 8 baseballs?" He said, "Sure." And we sat down in the seats right behind the dugout at the Astrodome. Had the 8 baseballs there, no pine tar, nothing on them, and he just put them between his fingers and just held it straight up like this. And he said, "Okay, we done?" And that was it. Yeah, 8 baseballs in one hand. I also witnessed at one point I'm standing in that same dugout, and JR walked up behind me and squeezed me around the waist. And at that time, my waist was about a 28, and it was about 3 weeks before my kidneys calmed down. He was a very big, very strong man, and a tremendous pitcher who, unfortunately, his career was short-circuited by a stroke on a year that he had made the All-Star team.
Well, I cannot imagine
In
standing in a box against him and Nolan Ryan too on the same team. But
and then
seeing JR, I mean, he was like 6'8", right?
Yeah.
And he could reach out and touch you.
Well, and then those 2 guys you just mentioned, Nolan and JR, and then put between them Joe Niekro throwing his knuckleball, and then Kenny Force or Joaquin Andujar behind those guys. So it was a formidable pitching staff. We just didn't hit enough against those Phillies in the 1980 playoffs to make a difference.
I always thought that was the best NLCS ever.
It was.
Every game.
I mean, I remember as a kid
innings,
watching
one
it was the
run.
best. Yeah. It was unbelievable. Extra inning ball games. It was unbelievable.
It was incredible.
In May of 1981, Ed Wade became the PR director for the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Hey.
Yep.
Now,
I didn't know that. That was
5
that's a new
years
trivia
there.
question
5
for
years
me.
with the Pirates, 81 through 85. Worked with Willie Stargell and Parker and all those guys. It was they had won the World Series in '79.
We are
so I got
family.
there a little bit after the time that club was the most productive. But it was a great experience for me and helped me continue to move forward in my career in baseball.
And what I have to say, I was fortunate enough to meet Pops, and he come over to the Braves organization. And was one of their roving coaches, and there wasn't a nicer man on the planet. And he even gave me as a young man, he took the young guys, and it was my first big league camp. Took us up, gave us some pieces of advice. Him and Ted Simmons. It stuck with me today. I give it to the young guys today. With the young guys coming in, you think you know it all. And it's more prominent, I think, now than ever, but it still works the same way. And his piece of advice was, shut up and listen. You might learn something. You don't know it all.
Well, he'd sit in that rocking chair in the corner of the clubhouse at Three River Stadium, and you could see that even guys that had established themselves like Phil Garner and
God, you mentioned that's some great names, man.
A lot of guys there that credentials of their own, but they knew that who the guy was leading the clubhouse. It wasn't the loudest guy in the room, but it was the guy who had the most to say.
Yeah.
And it was always Willie in that respect. And the year that he retired, I believe it was 1984. He decided to retire before the season started. Was going to retire at the end of the year. So we did that round around the entire National League, and it was amazing the tributes that were paid to him as a visiting player by all those teams universally, just loving everything that he had brought to the game.
Go ahead, Dan. I'm
I
sorry.
remember when Johnny Bench did that in 1983, by which time the Phillies had 3 of his big red teammates, Pete Rose, Joe Morgan, and Tony Perez, and we honored him here.
Yep.
And that was a special moment. After Pittsburgh, Ed joined Tal Smith Associates, and that had to be a great learning experience, 86 through 89, and then eventually you would succeed Tal Smith as the general manager of Houston.
Yeah, well, Tal actually, I got let go here in 2005 and was pro scouting for the San Diego Padres.
Right.
And Tal reached out to me and said that they were going to make a change in their general manager's role in Houston. Would I be interested? I went down and interviewed with Tal and Drayton McLean, the owner of the club, and was fortunate to get another opportunity to spend 4 years with the Astros and build up a lot of good relationships and leave some players behind that ended up having some pretty good success themselves.
You know, you're so modest. You were almost dismissive of yourself when the Phillies let him go. Well, you know, before they let him go, he accomplished a lot of good in this organization, and we're going to get into that. We're just trying to do a rough timeline and give you an example of the extensive, successful baseball background of Tommy.
It might go through all 4 segments. You know that, right?
Well, it could. In 1989, I believe that was the year, Ed, you were instrumental in bringing Bobby Abreu, one of the greatest Phils, for Kevin Stocker. Could you walk us through that? How did that occur?
What year was that?
It was whatever the expansion year was. I think it was '89. There were 2 expansion clubs coming in, Tampa and
I remember that.
I guess it was Colorado at that point in time. But anyway, we had Stocker. Both expansion clubs had interest in him as a shortstop. We needed somebody in the outfield that could really be a producer for us.
Was it 89 or 99?
No, it was 89.
89.
Yeah.
Because I come over in 90. Stocker wasn't up in the big leagues then.
You're right. We got our years wrong. It was like 1996, I believe.
Yeah.
But anyway,
that's my fault.
Both clubs had an interest in Kevin, and we looked at the players that might be available, because back then what you could do is those teams could. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You became the acting Phillies GM in December of '97, and were promoted to vice president and general manager in 1998.
Right. Yeah, but Lee Thomas was the general manager at the time that we made the deal with Kevin Stocker for Bobby Abreu.
Yeah, I remember that.
Now,
that was right after I left. Yeah.
Wait to hear this, folks. Here are some of the people that Ed Wade signed, drafted, traded for. Brett Myers, Pat Burrell, Ryan Howard, Chase Utley, Cole Hamels, Ryan Madsen. He promoted Jimmy Rollins to the big league club. He signed Carlos Ruiz and Shane Victorino. He traded Kurt Schilling and Scott Rowland. And really, Ed, I don't even know if you want to do. They kind of forced your hand, right?
Well, we knew what we were trying to do. We were trying to get good and stay good. And upon reflection, both players, you could understand at that point in their careers, getting good and staying good and working in that direction, they wanted to be good right then. And we really weren't in that position at that stage. We had a lot of different things that we had to get done. And it made sense from the standpoint of making sure that everybody in the clubhouse, as strongly as we possibly could, understand what the get good and stay good eventually could turn into. And fortunately for a lot of people, it worked that way. But yeah, it's not fun to trade two iconic players, one who's already in the Hall of Fame and one who certainly has had a lot of consideration about being in the Hall of Fame. But that's all part of the process that we were going through to get good and stay good and bridge from Veterans Stadium to the new ballpark, where we knew we were going to have the financial wherewithal to do the things that we wanted to do.
Were you also with Lee at the end of the 80s when our group of guys come through, when we got Dude and Crucky and Terry Mulholland and all those guys, like in '89?
I came over in '89, and Lee had already made the deal with San Diego and the deal with San Francisco.
Okay.
So those deals were in place. The Dykstra deal happened shortly after I got there.
Yeah.
But you want to talk about somebody who really changed the dynamic of a team. Lee Thomas, I owe a whole lot to Lee just for giving me the opportunity, because there were a lot of really good candidates to be his assistant. But when you look at what Lee was able to accomplish with minimal money to work with in the environment that existed at Veterans Stadium, it was remarkable. That '93 club was put together by him having the guts to go out and do a lot of different things to bring in younger guys as sort of a throw-in the Dale Murphy trade, if I'm not mistaken.
That was the arm that Lee wanted. I'd say we wanted the arm. I happened to be the guy that it was my time to move on.
And Lee always, that was something that I kept in mind all the time. I had great mentors and people like Tal Smith and Lee and senior advisors like Paul Owens and Dallas Green. But there were things that all four of those guys really preached and implemented that I was able to try to do myself when I got the opportunity to try to move things forward.
We have more to tell you about Ed Wade, but Chris Ermer, our producer, alerts us that it's time for our first commercial break.
Crack the whip.
And then we're going to come right back and find out many more contributions that Ed Wade made, mostly to the Phillies, but also with the Houston Astros. We'll be right back after this.
Hi, it's Pete from Chicky and Pete's. The summer of shellfish is back with all your favorites, including our sensational seafood boil, sticky lobster tails, chilled crab tacos, seasonal herb mussels, seafood pasta, and more. Full menu at chickiesandpete's.com. Plus, don't miss our incredible buy one, get one snow crab legs every Tuesday and Wednesday. It's Summer of Shellfish only at Chickies and Pete's.
Paul Muller from Team Toyota of Langhorne. If you've been waiting to buy your next pre-owned vehicle due to surging used car prices, then we have some great news for you. With over 45 used cars under $20,000, we have something for every budget. Plus, with our MVP pricing guarantee, warranty forever, and free maintenance for 1 year, you can rest assured that you're getting a reliable used car at a great price. Visit us in Langhorne on Route 1 or shop online at teamlanghorne.com.
At Independence Blue Cross, we take care of the people who take care of you. Everyday heroes like firefighters, police officers, teachers, farmers, and healthcare workers. Doctors and hospitals across the region have IBX, and they know what it means to have reliable access to care. So whether you're saving lives or just trying to live a healthier life, count on IBX, the region's #1 health insurer for 85 years. Learn more at IBX.com.
Bringing in top talent is as easy as 1, 2, Key. SEPTA Key Advantage is a unique and valuable transit benefit program that gives your employees all-day, everyday access to the entire SEPTA system. That means your staff can get into the office, over to a meeting, and out for the night, seamlessly and affordably, all thanks to you. Learn how easy it is to customize a SEPTA Key Advantage program for your team at SEPTA.org/partner programs. That's SEPTA.org/partner programs.
We now return to the Independence Blue Cross Bull Session presented by SEPTA. Once again, here are your hosts, Phillies PA announcer Dan Baker and Tommy Greene.
Special guest tonight, former Phillies general manager Ed Wade, also Houston Astros general manager, scout deluxe. Man, this guy, he knows his stuff. We're not even all the way through. We're just trying. It took more than a segment, Ed, just to cover a portion.
I spent 2 hours this morning preparing to talk about this club.
Oh yeah,
we're going to do that
right there. We're going to turn you loose. That's what I want to know as a GM.
All right. Here are some other people that Ed Wade signed for the Phillies. Jim Thome, over 600 home runs, Baseball Hall of Famer. David Bell, I think this guy's going to be a Hall of Famer. Well, Billy Wagner, Kevin Millwood, John Lieber, Eric Milton, Kenny Lofton. I think Kenny only played here 1 year. He had a darn good year for it.
Yep.
In 2005, the Phillies missed the playoffs by 1 game. I remember that last home series with Houston. I think Craig Biggio hit a home run.
Off Billy Wagner.
Yeah.
I've talked to Billy and I've talked to Billy and Beige both about that one.
You don't think Beige was juicing him up?
He brought it up, not me.
But what a huge difference, Ed. The Phillies were now very competitive. We're in a new ballpark. And I think what you and Bill Giles and Dave Montgomery envisioned was, in fact, coming to be.
Right. We told people our goal was to get good and stay good, and we talked about fans don't really care a lot about it. They want you to win, but we try to explain what the circumstances were economically at Veterans Stadium and how it would improve when we got to Citizens Bank Park, and we fulfilled that. We fulfilled that promise, and I think the real shining part of that that people can look at is the Tommy signing, because that in my mind that legitimized what we were saying all along, is to get good and stay good. The other side of all of this that you've talked about, we can't walk past what people like Mike Arbuckle did as the scouting director and Marty Wooliver as assistant, and the guys who are out there all the time. All those guys that I quote-unquote brought up from the big leagues or drafted, those are guys that Mike and Marty and his guys came, and they put their reputations on the line, and they're out there in the dead of winter, sometimes going seeing guys, and the heat of summer, coming back and saying, hey, don't walk past this guy because this is what he's capable of doing. And this guy oftentimes became Pat Burrell and Jimmy Rollins and Chase Utley and Brett Myers and all those guys who came along to make that magic thing happen later on in the early 2000s.
And by the way, who do you think it was that signed Charlie Manuel to the Phillies? Ed Wade.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we brought Charlie in. Ruben Amaro. Ruben was my assistant at the time, and we were making a managerial change. Larry Bowe. I'd hired Bowe as the manager. The smartest man in baseball I've ever been around is Larry Bowe.
I think anybody knows more than that guy.
Say that over and over again, and it's honest. It's as honest as I could possibly be. But we needed a change at that point in time. Ruben had played for Charlie in Cleveland, and said, hey, in the list of guys that we've got here, let's would you talk to Charlie? And I said, sure. And we had a lot of great candidates, and we hired Charlie, and Charlie had his press conference, and everybody made fun of the way he talked and his accent, and now Charlie cannot buy a meal anywhere in the tri-state area. He a tremendous baseball guy and a perfect fit, and candidly speaking, making him the manager also enhanced our chances of getting Jim Thome, because Jim is like a stepbrother or stepson to Charlie, and so I think that played a big role in us being able to get number 25 and being able to build that core nucleus and buy time for Ryan Howard to continue his development before he came to the big leagues and became the player that he was.
After Ed left Philadelphia, you mentioned you scouted with San Diego for a couple of years.
2 years.
And then was named the general manager of the Astros and served with distinction in that role from 2007 to 2011. Here's just a small taste of who he signed. Jose Altuve. Drafted Dallas Keuchel.
He can pitch, man.
George Springer. So you see and then you know what Houston went on to do. And just as Ed Wade had done in Philadelphia by building a strong foundation, although he wasn't here when the Phillies had that parade in 2008, Pat Gillick, with Hall of Fame general manager that he is and class act that he is, he was quoted by people saying, this is Ed Wade's team.
Well, I certainly appreciated what Pat said. And, again, trying to, in all candor, that was my first year as general manager in Houston. And I was sound asleep, not watching the World Series when the Phillies won. And my phone started buzzing, and people were saying, hey, isn't it great what Pat Gillick said about you? I had no idea what they were talking about. Later found out, obviously, and thanked Pat profusely. This is a Hall of Fame general manager in Pat. And a lot of his grooming, so to speak, came about working for Tal Smith. They were together for a number of years. working together in the Houston and the Yankees organization. But for him to say that, I wish it had happened sooner, but I'm happy it happened with that core nucleus. In all candor, with regard to the Houston situation, that club that won the World Series when they did had very few guys that we had brought through. But that said, at the time that and I'm going to be self-serving at this point, when I was fired after the 2011 season and the ownership of the club changed, there were 43 players in our organization who ended up playing in the big leagues, many of them still playing today. That was 2011. So I'm very proud of the fact that although they didn't succeed, that the club that did succeed in Houston wasn't built around those guys. They certainly used those players to make things happen for them, and those players went on to other organizations and have really acquitted themselves very well. So I'm proud of the work that our guys did there too. And
then Ed returned to the Phillies as a scout from 2011 to 2017, and working part of that time with Ruben Amaro.
Right, Ruben had been promoted to general manager when Pat Gillick retired, and Ruben was named GM. Asked me if I was interested in coming back, and I came back and worked for Ruben, and then stayed a year or so after that, and finished up my career, whatever that year was, 2016 or whatever.
And then another of your mentors you worked with, as you were both like assistant GM, Dallas Green.
Oh, I talk to people all the time about, you see the different changes that have taken place in the game and how analytically the game has become. And I'm certainly not going to disparage analytics, because the time that I worked for Tal Smith in negotiating contracts as assistant GM or GM, I used analytics. But the reality was when I had a conversation with a Dallas Green or a Paul Owens, it wasn't about numbers. It was about what Dallas would refer to as head and heart. When you talk to Pope, it was Paul Owens, Pope. When you talk to Pope, it was about esprit de corps. And I tell people the story all the time that I would make a point as assistant GM. I'd always go up and see our Batavia club in the low A rookie level, and I'd bring Paul with me. And it was a long drive. And there are two things that I would do. I'd keep the windows open. I'd keep my mouth shut, because he was going to smoke the whole way. But we would have conversations, even though there was a 40-plus year difference in our ages. There were things that he would talk about when he was general manager, and things that he had experienced that I knew I could apply to what my role was then, and if I ever became a general manager, to be able to apply the same criteria that the people like Paul and Dallas and Lee Ely and others used along the way.
I just want to say, is Mark Weissner still here? Did Mark... Come here, Mark, if you would, please.
That was well put, by the way. I mean, the way you look at guys. And
come
the way
over here, I can see it.
I mean, you're looking at the intangibles, the guys. I mean, the heart,
right?
The gut. There's more than just analytics that makes the guy.
Absolutely.
Ed and Tommy, I just want to take a second to thank this guy. Mark is an avid collector, but out of the kindness of his heart, every week he gives us an autographed photo to give to one of our audience members. So, Mark, I've found a bargain. I have quite a memorabilia collection, but I'll buy things, and I bring some of them in for you nice folks. Mark, this is Babe Ruth and Roger Maris at the starting series.
Wow. I've never seen that one.
Isn't that something?
Sure is.
It only cost me $4,000, Mark. No, I think I paid $10 for it. But I'm a pretty good buyer. I mean, as long as it's under 25. There you go. Thank you for your kindness.
You know what? Mr. Baker's one of the nicest men. Tommy Greene, I've known for years. Mr. Wade, I met a few times. It's a pleasure being to the show, and great host.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Mark. And
thank you.
And I've known Mark since I was become a Philly, since 1990.
Yeah.
And I've known him for all those years.
Yeah, we just don't want you to think like Ellen and Jack Foreman. Ellen is here every week taking photos of our guests, and she puts out this unbelievably good book. And we're going to take our second commercial break. That means we're halfway through tonight's edition of the Independence Blue Cross Bull Session. with Tommy Greene and me, Dan Baker. Special guest, Ed Wade, back after this.
Hi, it's Pete from Chicky and Pete's. The summer of shellfish is back. Treat yourself to our mouth-watering seafood boil with crab legs, shrimp, clams, mussels, and more. Try our calamari salad with a luscious, spicy, and sweet olive dressing. Or enjoy our delightful seafood pasta featuring crab, shrimp, and penne pasta in our world-famous red or Sicilian sauce. It's the summer of shellfish, only at Chickies and Pete's.
I SEPTA Philly. I SEPTA Philly. I SEPTA Philly.
I take SEPTA so I never miss tip-off.
I do not have time to deal with traffic.
I don't have a car. Do you know how expensive parking is?
I take the Broad Street line to all the games.
I ride the bus.
I ride the train and the subway.
I set my lineup when I ride.
I check Twitter, text my buddies.
I watch sports highlights or lowlights.
For real Philly fans, SEPTA is the hometown way to go. Ride with us at iseptaphilly.com.
At Independence Blue Cross, we take care of the people who take care of you. Everyday heroes like firefighters, police officers, teachers, farmers, and healthcare workers. Doctors and hospitals across the region have IBX, and they know what it means to have reliable access to care. So whether you're saving lives or just trying to live a healthier life, count on IBX, the region's #1 health insurer for 85 years. Learn more at IBX.com.
We now return to the Independence Blue Cross Bull Session presented by SEPTA. Once again, here are your hosts, Phillies PA announcer Dan Baker and Tommy Greene.
Tommy's and my special guest tonight, a terrific career baseball administrator, former Temple Owls baseball player as an undergraduate, PR man, superb, and general manager of the Phillies and the Astros, Ed Wade. Tommy,
yes.
Before we ask you about your Philly of the week,
yeah.
When did you and Ed first come to know each other?
When I got traded over from Atlanta, he'd hit on that a little bit earlier. In 1990, I got traded over, and he knows more about it. Why Lee Thomas did that, I have no idea. And some of the guys he brought over is like, you had to take a look at that clubhouse makeup. I said, do you really want those guys in the clubhouse like that?
Well, this gets back to
we had such a good time.
It gets back to the point it's not always about talent. Look at that room in '93. All the characters that you're talking about are the guys that Lee brought in, and it was a little bit of mayhem at different points in time. But
I think we
might never forget it.
I think we might have shocked you, and it made you turn gray a little earlier because he was his assistant, but he had to put up a lot of crap with us.
Tommy, who's our Independence Blue Cross Live Fearless Phillies Player of the Week?
Well, it's pretty. I mean, to me, it was pretty simple with the way he's come off the DL or IL this week, and the games that happened. It was 6 games he played in through July 2nd through the 7th was Trey Turner. The stat line for him for this week, and it's just what he added coming back is that that little kick to everybody. I think was huge because we had 3 of our other big guys out of the lineup. I think it was huge. He had 25 at bats, scored 7 runs, had 9 hits. He had 4 home runs and 9 ribbies for the week. So it was pretty, and he hit 360 for the week. And I could have went back one more day, and it made it hit 400 for a week, for that for 7 games. So he's come back off the IL and hadn't really missed a beat, and that's exactly what they needed with those guys being on the DL like that. So he's my pick for the week.
Did either of you guys get an announcement on your phone? Have the Phillies activated Kyle Schwarber for tomorrow night, or are they likely to wait?
I haven't
heard. I haven't seen anything.
So they say that is likely.
Yeah.
It's also a possibility that Bryce Harper is going to be activated. And if not for the Dodgers series, then more than likely for the Oakland A's.
Well, it leads to his paperwork he's got over here is what a GM would think about this situation, with that guy coming off the deal, like, your big guys coming off the deal like that. And because you're dealing with soft tissue injury like that,
right.
And we can't afford to miss that guy.
Well, first for Trey Turner to come off it's not the DL anymore, the IL and do what he has done is remarkable, particularly not going out on a rehab assignment. So it tells you how diligent he must have been with his workout at the ballpark to be able to do that. You have to give a little bit of a salute though to Edmundo Sosa for the job that he did filling in.
Oh my gosh! I mean, that's unbelievable.
Yeah,
next man up. That's what we've had.
Well, that's exactly right. That's and when you have Realmuto and Schwarber and Turner out and then Harper out, all those guys at the same time. People like Baum step up and pick you up. The right fielder gets his swing straightened out, picks you up. All these guys, it's next man up. It's the pitching staff answering the call as well and keeping you in games. You're not going to score 7 runs a game, but you're going to score enough runs. They're going to give you enough innings out there to get to work with whatever you can give them. But it's as exciting as everything has been to this point. There's 90 games left. And you've got to know that you've got to get to the finish line. And with this club, you got to get to the finish line. You got to get through October and November too, probably. So that probably enters into the equation a little bit. Not to rush. You're going to bump up against the All-Star break pretty soon. But that said, the games this week are pretty important. So it's a big decision for Dave Dombrowski and Rob Thompson and the others to put their heads together with the players and just figure out whether it makes sense to run them out there right now, either in mass or one at a time, or you sit on them for a while, give them a little bit more time. As Tommy said, soft tissue injuries, you can show up one day, feel great, and first time out of the batter's box, you're not doing so great anymore.
And I think the big key was that. I think the big key was that is the player being honest with you, with the training staff and stuff, how he is feeling.
Yeah,
I mean, because all those guys want to play. They feel like they can go. I can play a little, whatever, a little banged up a little bit or whatever. But I think the huge thing with those guys, they are so important. To the team.
Everybody wants to fall on their sword, but at different points in time, whether it's the player himself or the manager or the front office saying, hey, we appreciate the determination that you've got in this circumstance, but in this circumstance, we need to look at the bigger picture here and. So we're going to take it a little bit easier, and you have those arguments, you have those fights, and you get people on both sides of the equation. But at the end of the day, everybody's decision counts. But the right decision is the one that bears itself out at the end of the season. That it was right at that particular time was the right way to go.
Yeah. And what would be some right moves for the Phillies?
That was my next one. In your opinion,
yes. We know we can only speculate. We don't know for sure.
Well,
we got one of the best here. He has a much better educated guess than I do.
The question is what are their needs, you think? And then you can ad-lib on that one.
Well, everybody and their brother are going to be out there trying to find some bullpen help. There's no question about that. But that said, and I actually did look at this club a little bit more closely than I have. I looked at it this morning. You talking about Strom and Hoffman and Alvarado, the jobs that they've done. Sir Anthony Dominguez got off to a really bad start, but you look at what he's done over the last month or so, and how he's carved up his ERA and hits to innings pitched and those types of things. So yeah, you'd love to get another arm if you could. From a starting pitching standpoint, you've got 2 guys going to the All-Star game as starters. You've got Aaron. In any other season, if he didn't have the other 2 guys on his staff, he'd be going to the All-Star game, might be starting in the All-Star game. The other guys up and down the line have stepped up and done a great job for them. The 4th starter position is in solid hands right now. So, there's been a lot of talk about the outfield situation and what do you do there. And, I think everybody was hoping and continues to hope that the kid in center field hits enough and to serve along with that defense that he's capable of showing, although there have been some hiccups along the way. But I would think they're probably paying a little bit of attention to the possibility of doing something like that. But, again, the deeper you're pitching, the better you're going to be. You already know that you've got a club that's going to score a lot of runs. By and large, they're going to defend pretty well, very well, particularly when you get the Gold Glove catcher and the middle of the diamond, the Bryson Stott plays second base.
Yes.
You've got a budding superstar at third base. You've got the kid at second base who's going to be an all-star. you're always looking for more. I'm sure Dave.
You're looking for that up the middle. I mean, especially pitching and defense is what you look at a lot.
And I'm sure Dave Dombrowski's gonna explore everything that's possibly out there. This is a guy that's going to be a Hall of Fame general manager at some point when his career is ended. But the other thing you've got to look at is the price of doing business. Everybody who's got a player that is quote unquote available is going to be asking. They're going to be asking for a very, very high price for that player. So are you willing to part with some real prospects and not just a lot of bodies going someplace? That's got to be factored into what your thought process going forward. But there are guys there that I'm sure are attractive to other clubs, but you've got to weigh that as part of the overall equation. The end game is running a parade down Broad Street.
There was
that's the ultimate goal.
Tommy and Ed, there was a great story in the Inquirer and Daily News the other day. I believe it was by Scott Lauber, who was writing about some of the trade deadline deals that Dave Dombrowski has made with Detroit, with the Boston Red Sox. Some were very significant. Others were, kind of just around the margins.
Well, I'll give you another one because his name came up at the beginning of the show.
Darren
Dalton trade.
With the Marlins.
Yep, the Marlins.
Tommy, I wanted to ask you about the Darren Dalton Foundation. And
yes.
I've heard Dave Dombrowski said on our air one of the best deals he ever made was bringing the clubhouse leadership of Darren Dalton to the Marlins. He said as soon as he walked in the door, he took over.
Yep.
Nobody.
Well, he knew the dynamic going in there with the guys they had on that club. Right. That's something had to change as far as what was going on. There was too many. You could see that from the outside. I mean, I know I did. And when he went over, I said, that's going to be one of the best moves they make because he's going to solidify that, inside the clubhouse. Because he demands, respect from where he come from and what he's done and who he is as a person. He's going to challenge guys to be better.
I don't know that we ever had a conversation about it, but I know one of the reasons why that deal was made that Lee and Bill Giles wanted Darren to get another shot at winning a ring. Where we were at that point in time, because we were starting to that club that Lee had put together, those guys starting to age and leaving as free agents and injuries and stuff like that. And I really think part of the equation there when Lee made the deal with Dave Dombrowski centered around giving Darren a chance to take that leadership ability and put it on a big stage in Miami. And fortunately for the Marlins and for Darren, it worked out as well as you could possibly have imagined it to work.
So we still haven't gotten into the details of what the Phillies might do, or what would you recommend if they asked your advice, Ed?
As a fan.
Oh, as a fan?
Yeah. You got a wish list?
They call
and let's say that carries over to GM too because you're a very smart man.
Fans' wish lists are usually a lot longer and a lot more unrealistic. No, I think if you can add pitching depth, if by chance there is a bona fide outfielder who's going to provide you both the offense and the defense, because when Schwarber ended up moving to the DH spot full time, and you had now two guys who could play center field. How do you improve your pitching? You improve your pitching by going out and getting the Tommy Greenes of the world, and you improve your pitching by improving your defense. And they immediately improved their pitching staff by what the kid could do in center field and moving Marsh over to left field.
Mm-hmm.
With all due respect, at this point, Kyle Schwarber can go out there and stand in that position and catch what's hit to him, but he's a DH. But you need somebody who's going to lock a game up for you when that ball goes into the gap or it's headed into the greenery in center field there. So, if there is a bona fide outfielder who can both be a defender and a bat for you, then it's something I'm sure they're at least going to look at. And again, not to beat a dead horse, but you're always looking to improve your pitching. But don't walk past the guys that you have there right now. Including a guy like Kerkering who's come up and
he's quietly just going like this, and then he's proven, man, he's starting to do it.
Well, you got some of these guys that what they've done from an ERA standpoint and how they fill different holes at different points in time and giving guys a little bit more rest. it's a big decision for the Phillies to make going into the trading deadline, but no other club's going to be as prepared as they are to follow through on those decisions.
Well, I don't think Mr. Dombrowski's afraid to do things either if it's with them, if it benefits the club, if it's within reason.
No, I don't. I think that's been Dave's MO every place that he's gone.
Yeah.
He's been successful every place. He's not going to make a bad deal, but he's not going to let the future stand in ahead of what you could possibly achieve today, because prospects become suspects due to injury or other factors going forward. So if you got a chance to add somebody special, go ahead and make it.
We have one more commercial break, and then we'll be right back at Chickies and Pete's, 500 Easton Road in Warrington, Pennsylvania, and we'll conclude tonight's discussion with former Phillies and Astros general manager Ed Wade after this.
Hi, it's Pete from Chickie and Pete's. The summer of shellfish is back. Indulge in our sweet and spicy sticky lobster tails with cilantro and lime. Enjoy Chickie and Pete's chilled crab tacos bursting with snowy white lump crab meat. Treat yourself to our mouth-watering seafood boil with crab legs, shrimp, clams, mussels, and more. Or dive into our tasty seasonal herb mussels, prepared to perfection in our delicious zesty broth. It's the summer of shellfish, only at Chickies and Pete's.
Hi, Paul Muller from Team Toyota of Langhorne. If you've been waiting to buy your next pre-owned vehicle due to surging used car prices, then we have some great news for you. With over 45 used cars under $20,000, we have something for every budget. Plus, with our MVP pricing guarantee, warranty forever, and free maintenance for 1 year, you can rest assured that you're getting a reliable used car at a great price. Visit us in Langhorne on Route 1 or shop online at teamlanghorne.com.
At Independence Blue Cross, we take care of the people who take care of you. Everyday heroes like firefighters, police officers, teachers, farmers, and healthcare workers. Doctors and hospitals across the region have IBX, and they know what it means to have reliable access to care. So whether you're saving lives or just trying to live a healthier life, count on IBX, the region's #1 health insurer for 85 years. Learn more at IBX.com.
SEPTA offers a variety of career opportunities. Our core business is transit, and with 5 modes of service, we rely on and need operators, engineers, and conductors. But it takes a host of other specialties, including mechanics, electricians, plumbers, masons, painters, carpenters, welders, and more to keep the system moving. As an employee, you will earn competitive compensation and great benefits, including medical, dental, prescription, and a pension. Visit jobs.septa.org to apply today. That's jobs.septa.org.
We now return to the Independence Blue Cross Bull Session presented by SEPTA. Once again, here are your hosts, Phillies PA announcer Dan Baker and Tommy Greene.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are seeing firsthand why Ed Wade was such an outstanding and still remains an outstanding baseball administrator. The way he prepares for this show is the way he was always prepared in the front office.
No, it's just that I've got a very bad memory these days.
Well,
I want to say something real quick, Dan, and this is about you and your lovely wife, Kathy.
Oh, thank you.
Today's a special day, if I'm not mistaken, right? Or
Saturday.
Saturday, you're close, but I wanted to let everybody know, Ellen and has brought it to my attention that as recent as Saturday was your 50th wedding anniversary with your wonderful wife, Kathy. I wanted to congratulate you and say, and that is so awesome.
Thank you.
And Ellen's got a little present for you, and we wanted to make sure we got that in to
Thank you,
we
Ellen.
appreciate you guys and wanted to wish you congratulations.
Can you see that?
Very nice.
That's very kind.
And I feel like
thank you, Jack, and
I feel like you're like me. You're a lucky man with Kathy. My wonderful wife, Wendy. I feel like I'm the luckiest man on the face of the earth. And
the three of us married up.
I outkicked my coverage, man. Hey,
thank you so much for your. We have the best fans. They're bringing it. We exchange presents every week anymore, and
my blood sugar just went up like 200 points. Me and them.
Oh, okay. Can you?
He wants to tilt it.
I
there
can
you
you
go.
see it? Oh, thank you, Tommy, and it's nice to see your beautiful wife, Wendy.
And not to mention, I think Ed just mentioned to me his wonderful wife showed me a picture of her back when he met her back in the day, like 44. You said
1977. I was the year that Dan talked about me being the intern in the Phillies PR department. I was standing at the 4th floor elevator, and one of the usherettes, then known as Hot Pants girls, walked up, and we've been married for 43 years.
Oh, that's awesome.
Hey,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Ed, you know something else that I think the majority of our audience listening at home, watching at home, or as part of our live audience at Chickies and Pete's here in Warrington, Pennsylvania. Ed, did you donated one of your organs or a bone in your leg to your daughter?
Yeah, our youngest daughter, Maureen, when she was 5, I was at the ballpark as usual, and Roxanne called and said that Maureen they were jumping in and out of a hula hoop in the front yard, and she came down and fractured her femur. And it turned out it was a condition called enchondromatosis, where the bone wasn't all bone; it was a lot of cartilage. So she had a couple of leg lengthening surgeries, a couple of leg straightening surgeries, and she had one spot right above her knee, a very large cartilage spot. And so they took the piece of my fibula bone out of my lower left leg, cut it into pieces, and grafted it to her femur. And fortunately, it took, and she's just had her first child in
that's so
January.
awesome. And congratulations.
But we went through some stuff with her, and fortunately it all worked out for the best. See, I'm the oldest. I think I'm probably the oldest surgery patient ever at St. Christopher's Hospital for Children. I'm the only one that ever shaved while he was there.
But you know how many people would be loving enough or brave enough to do that? You know, but loving parents that all of us like to think we would step up to the plate if the need arose. Well, this man did. Ed Wade, former Phillies general manager, Houston general manager. Tommy, how do you see Tommy Greene? This guy pitched a no-hitter.
Yeah.
A lot of.
I called him before they woke up that day. Yeah, it was a
May 23rd, 1991.
Day game in Montreal. Yeah, 12:05 start maybe.
That AstroTurf was still hard as a rock.
Oh,
when you're
God.
pitching there. Anything hit on the ground would have been a base hit.
That's why I asked Lee off the air, did he happen to be there that day? Because I can't remember if him or Lee had happened to make a trip, because they make trips every now and then to watch us, and I don't think he was. And that was the plane ride. I didn't remember nobody too much. To Pittsburgh, that was one of those fun times.
Yeah, I'll tell you another great thing that I'll never forget about Olympic Stadium in Montreal. By the way, that's where my wife Kathy and I are going to celebrate our 50th, because my agent Josh Weinfeld and Ryan Quinn is over here. Ryan was nice enough to bring me up tonight, and he works in Josh's office. And this wonderful young man in the sports promotion business is getting married this Saturday, the same day as my wife's and my 50th anniversary, Saturday, July 13th.
Hey.
So we've got the Oakland A's at 4 o'clock, and we have Josh's wedding at 7, and then on Tuesday we're flying to Montreal. We'll be in Montreal for 3 days, Quebec City for 3 days, then we'll fly home the following Tuesday, the 23rd. So I'm sorry I'm going to miss you one of those Mondays. The second Monday, the 22nd, I won't be here. But, yeah, it's pretty exciting. But does it ever get as exciting when your team has a chance to go to the World Series? And, Ed, is there any doubt in your mind that this team has a good chance to do that?
Well, I don't think there's any question. Again, there's 90 games to go, and you can't walk past that. But at the pace that they're playing at this point in time, it would be you're talking about a 114 or 115 win type of season. No, I don't think there's any reason, but you have to factor in a couple of different things. You've got all these wild card teams now. The Phillies have already faced that last year, but the plus side of that is they faced it last year.
Yeah.
They've been through this. That experience, as disappointing as it was for them, is still it still resonates with everybody, I'm sure, in that room, who went through it last year. From a talent standpoint, even if the trading deadline comes and goes and nothing happens, if this club can keep a steady progress from a health standpoint, I don't think there's any reason why they can't. That's the huge thing. But the human element always comes into play in this game, and as you saw last year, a team like Arizona that nobody really talked a whole lot about had a chance to do something special, and I'd like to think this is going to be the Phillies' turn again.
Well, I mean, I look at things, and people's raised the question. You start. I didn't ever listen to talk radio or stuff when I played or anything. I read the paper. The only reason I read the paper was look at the box score from the day before the team I was pitching against if I didn't see them the day before. See who was hot and who's not, that type thing.
Right.
You hear a lot of things, like right now, people, the fans and the critics start worrying about like Ranger. The last 3 outings or so, he's been a little bit, and he says he's fine and his arm feels fine. I can speak from experience on that a little bit because I went through the same sort of scenario in '93. Matter of fact, me and Schilling did a little bit. And one of the questions I'm trying to hit on right here is somebody is like that complete game. Him and Swart. I mean, it was Sanchez that threw the complete game. He went down after, not went down, but kind of struggled after, and they blamed it on the innings that like the complete game. People will start saying, well, I mean, I heard somebody, it wasn't just, it might have been inside the organization too, said something, well, he threw the complete game before he might have, and that bothers me.
There's 2 points that I would make to that. The first one is, specifically about a pitcher in this rotation. I think one of the beauties of this rotation is they're not of the mind of throw as hard as you can for as long as you can.
Yeah.
Everybody, from Aaron Nola all the way through Wheeler, all these guys, Sanchez, the way that they pitch, they're not trying to throw everything that's going to
max effort.
I've told people that if you want your kid, male or female, to make a lot of money in baseball, send them to medical school and become orthopedic surgeons because there's going to be a lot of surgeries. But with this club, you don't have that. I really don't think you've got that happening. The other thing I'll say about respectfully with sports talk radio and people who always want to tell you the dark side of things. Read Teddy Roosevelt's "Man in the Arena," his speech, "Man in the Arena," and he forms it, and he says, it's the guy who's out there with the blood and sweat and tears, and it's not those bashful souls that know neither victory nor defeat.
Yeah.
So I would highly recommend that. It puts a lot of perspective as to what this guy did to stand 60 feet 6 inches away versus somebody with a headset on. Shooting bullets at him from the radio.
Yeah,
so
well, I mean,
that's all I'm going to say about that.
See, because I look at that back at, because I did pitch and I went through sort of similarity, so to speak, what Ranger is going through to such a hot start and the way he did. It reminded me of what, because my first 12 or 14 games, I was, 8-0 with a 1.6 or 1.7, and right there. I went through a stretch where I threw 5 complete games in a row. People don't, and Padres come up to me after because we didn't keep the velocities on the boards or the pitch count on the boards or anything. He said, "You know how many pitches you averaged over those 5 starts?" I said, "No, not that it mattered." He said 108. Do the math. It's you throw 9 innings, throw 108 pitches. That's pretty decent.
Yeah.
But I could vouch. Is there? Some people say, is Ranger going through a little bit or something with his arm or dead arm or something like that? I know with me, personally, it took me because my arm. I went through the same thing. I felt like my hand was on the ball, but I didn't have nothing behind it.
Yeah.
And the command kind of went a little bit, but I wasn't hurting or anything. But I think what it is, it comes a point in time during the season. You're a human being. And you got your routine you do. I think you have to take a step back and evaluate. That's what me and Coop end up doing after you got your face beat in at 3.
Sorry, we have to go. That's a good way to end it with that story.
But
ladies and gentlemen,
sorry about that.
Tom Greene and Ed Wade. I'm Dan Baker. Thanks to Chris Ermer and Sean Jordan and Kyle Quinn and Jack and Ellen Foreman for this beautiful anniversary cake. Good night, everybody. Next week, we're at Chickies and Pete's in Drexel Hill, 6 to 7 on WBCB 1490 and 107.3 FM.
You're listening to 1490 WBCB and on your FM dial at 106.